Hi VC, Dave back with you again. Um, so specifically, a mixture of stuff to show you today. Recent pickups, roughly from around over the last month. One really nice individual item, which I'm dying to show you. A result of a swap, plus some stuff I picked up at a record fair last weekend, and a nice charity shop haul, which involves one spectacular vinyl find, plus some cassettes and a VHS video. Oh yes, and there's a couple of CD items as well, just thrown in the mix. Starting off, now this is something. This is something that had been on my want list for a long time. Never seen it in the wild. I've been watching it on Discogs. Always very expensive. And then turns up in a local second-hand record shop. Sorry, record shop, charity shop. That is Philip Glass, Einstein on the Beach. Yes, the work that really kind of brought Philip Glass to a wider audience. Philip Glass and Robert Wilson. Robert Wilson wrote. Well, it's okay. For those of you not familiar with this work, it was first performed in 1976. It is basically it's an opera. Kind of opera with elements of modern dance. Now the dance part, that was Robert Wilson's contribution. Music by Philip Glass. It's on the subject of, well, obviously on the subject of Albert Einstein, but doesn't really follow any kind of narrative as such. Okay, right. Okay, so this record shop, which I call to on a quite frequent basis, gone in some new, well, a big collection of records, and among them is this, which has long been on my want list. And they're looking for €35 for it, which is kind of about what it goes, in the kind of condition it's in. So I did a swap. I did a trade. It was a record I picked up in a charity shop about 6 or 7 months ago. I've been trying to sell it online without any luck, but I asked them were they interested in doing a trade. So I thought they might do a partial trade, but as it turned out, they agreed to a full trade. So the record, which originally cost me about €3 or something, so I was able to do it a straight swap. So very happy with that. Okay, so this is a quadruple disc box set. This was released in 1978, and this is the first US pressing on Tomato Records. Tomato Records, I've only one other item on Tomato Records. That is Earthquake Island by John Hassel, which also came out in 1978. Okay. So it comes with a booklet, and those pictures are from the 1976 first performance, from which this recording is taken. Quite extensive booklet on the production, on the work itself, and as you can see, it's quite an extensive stage production. That was, I don't think it's been. I think it was revived again in the '80s, but There's the tomato label. Also comes with the original inners. Now I'll show you the inners. The inners are quite interesting. They're these are very nice see-through inners with the tomato label. So yes, so the work itself, yeah, one of the pieces that really kind of made one of Philip Glass's most acclaimed works, and that really kind of brought him to a wider audience, I suppose, in the mid '70s. I've never, as I said, I've never seen this in the wild. I think there's something like only 2 recordings of this available. The other recording is from the '90s, I think, and that is a CD box set, and that's pretty pricey as well. So I had been watching that as well on Discogs, but yeah, very expensive. But yeah, it's yeah, for those of, well, I mean, I'm sure you're all familiar with Philip Glass, but this is yeah, extremely idiosyncratic vocal work, and as I said, it's spread over 4 discs. It's a huge work. It's a huge kind of. I've just listened to it once so far. It took a long time to listen to it back to back. It's really one, I think that kind of that might need a couple of more plays to take it in, but it is an absolutely seminal monster of a work in Philip Glass's discography. So I'm absolutely delighted to have it in my collection, because it's one that I really thought I would never get hold of, because it is so expensive generally online, and as I said, postage for this would probably be astronomical. So like yeah, really pleased to have gotten that as a result of a trade, which, as it turns out, is a really nice nice trade, which cost me very little, as it turns out. So that down there, and yeah, condition wise as well. I mean, apart from the split in the box, condition is really nice with that. What next? Yes, last Sunday there was a record fair here in town. I didn't have a huge amount of money on me, so I kind of tended to. I was hitting the kind of bargain bins, but I picked up some pretty nice stuff. This is Illuminations by Alice Coltrane and Carlos Santana. This came out in 1974 on CBS. Prior to this, I did not have anything by Alice Coltrane. I mean, okay, originals of her stuff you just really do not see in the wild. This one is probably a bit more. It's not particularly rare, I think, but yeah, I got it for quite a nice price. It's not in the best of condition, but it has been played quite a bit. There's a bit of crackle here and there on the quieter parts, and the sleeve as well has suffered a little bit of water damage, as you can see there, and it's a bit kind of waved, but really cosmic artwork, and quite a cosmic work itself. Alice Coltrane strings, and yeah, I'm not that, like I'm kind of Santana is one. I don't generally collect his stuff, or you know, but the only other thing I have by him is that one he did with John McLaughlin. I just can't think of the name of it just now, but it came out in '73. Anyway, yeah. How to describe this? I think it has quite a kind of a soundtrack vibe to it, almost. Yeah, it's very, as you can probably tell, but Santana was going through that kind of a phase at the time, doing this kind of very spiritual, kind of Eastern influenced music, and of course Alice Coltrane. There is this kind of, it starts off with kind of the the Buddhist chant, and things take off from there. Very kind of cosmic Eastern influenced music. Yeah, and an exceptionally good album, and I'm glad to finally have something by Alice Coltrane in my collection. And seeing as she is quite a such a seminal figure in music. Other pickups I made. Oh yes, this is another one I picked up quite cheaply. Tangerine Dream, and it's one of their later ones. Mid-period, White Eagle from 1982. On Virgin, of course. This is a little bit rough. I mean, but condition-wise as well. But it's perfect. It doesn't affect it too much. Yeah, this is very much kind of sequencer driven. It's really kind of their 80s kind of sound is kicking in here, and getting more and more acquainted with their sort of 80s or mid-period stuff. Yeah, two more pickups. These two cost me €2 each. This is on the Warp label. Warp, that label from Sheffield. This is an act called Tricky Disco, 12-inch single called Housefly, which came out in 1991. I really love the Warp label. Again, this is not in great condition again, but it cost me virtually nothing. Yeah, so this is very much kind of progressive techno of the type that Warp was putting out in the early 90s. Yeah, and I think Warp is one of my, if you think kind of post, say, 1990 or post 80s labels, yeah, definitely a label that I, if I see something on the Warp label going cheap, I will grab it, generally. Yeah. This is part of a series called Street Sounds Electro, a series of compilations released from about the early 80s, maybe 83, up to about the late 80s, maybe 88 or 89. This came out in 1984. This is Street Sounds Electro 4. And included in this is, there's an early track by Run DMC on here. It's called Sucker in Seas. Personally, my favorite track on this is Techno City by Cybertron. Cybertron from Detroit, one of the kind of pioneers of techno music. And yes, 7-minute long track which closes this compilation, and that for me is really really makes this worth the €2 that I paid for it. So and I'll be seeing some more from this label just in a minute. Now a couple of CDs in the same place where I picked up the Philip Glass box set, a big selection of second-hand CDs. I picked up this Brian Eno, Taking Tiger Mountain by Strategy. This is one which the original vinyl editions of this are insanely expensive. I know it has been reissued fairly recently actually on vinyl, but yeah, I just decided to pick this up because it was quite cheap. Yeah, this is what can I say about this album? His second solo album. Well, if you don't include no Pussyfooting with Robert Fripp. And what can you say about this? Third Uncle. I mean, what a track. Burning Airlines, Give Me So Much More. Well, yeah, just a superb album. Kind of a companion piece to Here Come the Warm Jets, which came out very just shortly beforehand, I think, the previous year. So yeah, superb. I think this is I'm not sure when this, maybe late 90s or early 90s CD reissue. Staying with Eno, this is I'm not buying much on Discogs these days, but this is a Discogs purchase. So, Ambient 2, The Plateau of Myrrh, Harold Budd and Brian Eno, the second in his Ambient series. I've decided I'm going to try and collect all in this series, but I've decided the originals on vinyl are extremely expensive, so I decided, they're probably best to listen to on CD anyway. I have the first one on vinyl, which is a little bit crackly, but anyway, okay. So this came out in 1980, the second release in Eno's Ambient series. This is a 1991 reissue on Editions EG. So it's so collaborating with Harold Budd, very, very minimal. Composed by both Eno and Harold Budd. It's just piano based or keyboard based, and yeah, just sublime ambient music. Third CD up. Now this was a charity shop find. It just cost me €1. This is on the ECM label. This is Charles Lloyd, and this is called Hyperion with Higgins. This is the last album to feature Billy Higgins. It was recorded in 1999 and released in 2001. Also has John Abercrombie, who passed away recently, Gary Grenadier and Brad Medeladou on piano. So this is this is a classic ECM release. Very, very pleased to pick this up for just €1. I'll move on because I've got. Okay. Next up, my next finds are all 10 items in total, which I picked up in a charity shop, which is it's in a town a bit outside the city, Cork, here where I live. I've been there to this charity shop about a year ago, and I found some pretty nice stuff there, and I've always been meaning to go back. So on one of my days off, I decided I'd take the train, just a 20-minute train ride, and go back to this charity shop and see if there was anything. And yes, I made some very, very nice finds indeed. I picked up 10 items in total, 1 vinyl, 8 cassettes, and 1 VHS video, and I paid €10 in total, which is roughly the same as $10. Now, okay, enough of that. Starting with the vinyl, and what a find! The Paul Bley Trio, Touching. This originally came out in 1965. This is a 1969 UK reissue. It originally came out with a different cover, so I think it's a UK second press. So yeah, so some of the tracks on this are composed. There's compositions here by Carla Bley, former wife, also Annette Peacock, and Paul Bley himself. So just three, as the titles, Paul Bley Trio. Paul Bley himself on piano, Kent Carter on bass, and Barry Altschul on drums. And this is a superb piece of minimal jazz. I don't have much by Paul Bley. I actually only have one other album by him. It's I just can't think of the name of it just now. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's absolutely superb condition. It's on it's on Fontana, I should have said as well. The disc is just really, really clean. It's just really, I mean, probably definitely a strong VG, with a little bit of water damage on the sleeve, but I mean, for what I paid for it, like, I mean, this is just a super score. Really, really happy with this. Pick this up because it's it's one, it goes for quite a lot online. So to find it in a charity shop, is just really, really pleased with that. This charity shop, they had a lot of cassettes and a lot of VHS videos. Now some of the cassettes, straight off, pick of the bunch. This is something which I already have on vinyl and on CD, but there's no way I was leaving this behind. Brian Eno and David Byrne, My Life in the Bush of Ghosts. This is a 1987 edition on EG, so it doesn't have Koran in it. It does have Very, Very Hungry, which is the replacement track, but yeah, really, really happy to find this on cassette. As just a really, really super find. The Cure, Wild Mood Swings. Not one of the Cure's best albums. This is from 1996. Even hardcore Cure fanatics aren't too crazy about this album, but still, nonetheless, the Cure always worth grabbing when you see them in going cheap. Peter Gabriel, So, from 1986. This is the one with Sledgehammer. Yeah, what can I say about this album? I'm sure you're all familiar with it. Really his kind of big commercial breakthrough, I suppose, back in 86. Now this one, again, this is also on the Street Sounds, part of the Street Sounds thing. Street Sounds 87. Yeah, so this has some... there's a really kind of interesting mixture of stuff on this, including some house, Chicago house music, which is very much kind of coming to the fore in 1987. Yeah, so that's a nice pickup. The other cassettes I picked up are quite interesting because they're kind of acts which I generally wouldn't bother with, but because of just the fact that they're on cassette, Little Feat, Time Loves a Hero. I know of this band, but I've never, prior to this, I'd never actually listened to anything by them. Turns out this is quite interesting. This is a kind of fusion, I suppose. And I didn't know that this band contained some former members of Zappa's Magic Band and Beefart's Magic Band. Sorry, Beefart's Magic Band and Zappa's The Mothers of Invention. This came out in 1977. Harry Nilsson compilation, basically a kind of a best of, which came out in late 70s on a K-Tel, which is kind of a budget label. Nice cover, and that looks really cool. Okay. Yeah, Wings. Yeah, I'm not a fan of Wings or McCartney in general, but I thought, well, this is certainly, you know, interesting to pick up. I thought this is an original cassette, UK cassette from 1973. Sorry, so this is older than myself actually. So released quite a few months before I was born, I think. But yeah, Paul McCartney and Wings band on the run. I'm staying with former Beatles members, Ringo Starr, Ringo's Roto Gorare. This album is pretty awful. Yeah, I just picked it up for the sheer novelty value. It's a pretty bad album, really. But yeah, the most interesting thing about it is a former owner brought it back from America and wrote this big spiel about it here. This shop also had a lot of VHS video cassettes, and yeah, I think I'll probably go back there again because they had a lot of video. I'd like to have a rummage through their video cassettes, but I picked up just one. Again, a band who I don't generally bother with, and I don't collect their stuff, but I thought this was really cheap, and I thought, well, The Police Around the World, band on their 1980-81 tour. And yes, this is a VHS video on Thorn EMI. This is from 1982. I haven't played this. I do have a VHS video player, but I will play this at some point, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But an interesting find. I thought. Okay, that's it. Nearly at half an hour. Sorry for rabbiting on and drawing the time out, but yeah, really pleased with the Philip Glass box set and the Paul Bley, and out of the cassettes, I think definitely this, you know, My Life in the Bush of Ghosts, superb album. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great weekend, everyone.